Every morning, you promise yourself, today I'll change. Today I'll finally break that habit. But by night, you're back in the same loop, exhausted, ashamed, stuck. What if the problem isn't you, but the way you've been trying to fix yourself? Tonight, I want to tell you a deeper story, not about hacks or 30-day challenges, but about a fundamental shift in perspective. It's the story of two people, separated by a continent, but connected by the same silent struggle, who found their answer not in a new app or a louder motivational speech, but in a 500-year-old whisper of wisdom from Japan. Let's really meet them. First, Ethan, 32, a corporate lawyer in a Manhattan firm whose name was etched in glass and reputation. His success was a fortress, a high-rise apartment with a view that looked over the dreams of millions. But inside that fortress, Ethan was a prisoner. His addiction wasn't to substances, but to validation, to the next win, the next bonus, the fleeting respect in a partner's nod. He was a master of the law and a slave to the grind. He had a novel in his heart, a story he'd carried since college, but he treated it like a guilty secret. "I'll start tomorrow," he'd whisper, then bury himself in another 80-hour week. His willpower was a brutal, blunt instrument. He used it to beat himself up for not being stronger, for being tired, for wanting something more. He was exhausted, living a life of quiet desperation, signed on a dotted line. And then Clara, 28, a soul built for stories, living in a Seattle apartment filled with books and boxes, unopened packages piled like monuments to a feeling she couldn't name. Her dream was to publish a novel, to weave words into worlds, but her reality was the frantic, flush-faced ritual of the online cart. Click, swipe, purchase. A thrilling leap across the void, followed by the crushing gravity of regret when the confirmation email landed. It was never about the item. It was about the moment of possibility it represented. A new, shinier version of herself. She'd vow to stop, cut up credit cards in dramatic ceremonies, only to find herself, days later, tapping a new one into her phone. The shame was a constant companion. She looked in the mirror and saw someone weak, fundamentally flawed. Both Ethan and Clara were operating from the same broken manual. The manual said, when you have a bad habit, you declare war. You use guilt as your fuel and willpower as your weapon. You fight until you win. But this war, it was civil war. And in a war against yourself, every victory feels like a loss. You just get more tired. The turning point came not from trying harder, but from a kind of surrender. A surrender of the old fight. For Ethan, it was geography that forced the shift. A business trip to Tokyo. The city was a symphony of organized chaos, but it was in a silent garden within the Meiji Shrine where the noise in his mind became deafening. That's where he saw him, an elderly monk, Master Ryota, raking the gravel into perfect, flowing lines with a meditative slowness that seemed to bend time. Ethan, suffocating in his own ambition, finally asked the question that had been burning a hole in his chest. "Master, how do you find peace? How do you quiet the chaos?" Master Ryota didn't look up. His hands continued their rhythmic work. "The chaos is not out there to quiet, young man," he said, his voice like stones in a stream. "It is in here." He tapped his own temple. "You are trying to calm the ocean by pressing down on the waves. You will only tire your arms." "So what do I do?" Ethan asked, frustration creeping in. "Just let the waves crash?" "You learn to float," the monk said, finally looking at him, his eyes clear and deep. "You observe the wave. You feel its strength, its direction. You do not waste energy fighting it. You let it pass beneath you. This is not passive. It is the deepest form of action." This is the way of Kaizen. You do not move the mountain. You carry one single small stone away. Today. And then another tomorrow. The mountain does not notice. But one day, you will stand in the valley you have created. The word Kaizen landed in Ethan's mind not as a concept, but as a relief. Small, continuous improvement. It was permission to be small, to start small. Meanwhile, Clara's breaking point wasn't in a garden, but in the rubble of her own living room. Another delivery, another wave of shame. This time, it felt fatal. The thought, "I will always be this person," felt like a life sentence. In that despair, she called Aiden, not for a solution, but for a witness. Aiden had been there, not with shopping, but with a bottle. His voice was calm, a lifeline. "Clara," he said, "the willpower game is rigged. You're trying to use the problem to solve the problem. Your mind, when it's holding, is reaching for the closest painkiller. Shopping is your painkiller. The question isn't how do I stop the pill? It's what is the pain?" He introduced her to the word Ikigai. "It's not just purpose as some grand elusive destiny," he explained. "It's the small, daily reasons for being. The thing that makes your feet hit the floor. For you, it's the sentence that comes out perfectly, the character that feels real. That's your true north. Your habit isn't your enemy. It's a misguided compass, spinning wildly because it's disconnected from your Ikigai. Reconnect to your why, and the compass settles. The path becomes clear." This is where theory became alchemy, where philosophy turned into the quiet, daily machinery of change. Ethan went home. He didn't rage quit his job. He didn't buy a new notebook for his novel. That was the old war. Instead, on his first morning back, he opened a blank document on his computer. He set a timer for 2 minutes. His Kaizen commitment: "I will write for 2 minutes before I open my work email. Not a chapter, not a page, 2 minutes." Some days, he wrote one clunky sentence. Other days, a paragraph flowed. The result didn't matter. The ritual did. He was no longer Ethan the lawyer, failing to write a book. He was Ethan who writes for 2 minutes every morning. The identity shifted, grain by grain. For Clara, the Ikigai pause became sacred. When the urge to shop, that fizzy, anxious feeling, rose up, she would physically place her hands on her desk. She'd say, "I see you." She'd ask the question, what is the real need right now? Is it escape? Is it recognition? Is it just a moment of beauty? She'd then perform her Kaizen swap. If the need was escape, she'd swap browsing shopping sites for reading one page of a beautiful novel. If it was recognition, she'd swap it for sharing one paragraph of her writing with a trusted friend. She was not denying the need. She was honoring it with a better, truer answer. Ethan's 2-minute timer becoming 5, then 10. A post-it note on his monitor. The mountain is moved 1 stone. Clara's 24-hour list notebook filled with crossed-out items. A savings account graph on her phone, inching upward. Ethan confidently leaving at 6 p.m., his laptop left behind. Him laughing, truly laughing, with friends. Clara at a bookstore, smiling, not buying, but running her fingers over the spines of books in the section where she one day hoped to be. 6 months later, the compound interest of these small choices had built a new life. Ethan had 90 pages of a manuscript, but more importantly, he had a self he respected. He was no longer at war. He negotiated at work from a place of calm strength, not frantic need. He had become the bamboo, flexible, resilient, rooted in his small, daily practice. Clara had paid off her credit card debt. She had finished 3 short stories, but the true victory was in the quiet moments. Walking past a store window, feeling the old urge rise, observing it like a wave. and watching it pass. She had reconnected her compass, her Ikigai. Telling stories that made people feel seen was now the loudest voice in the room. They met by a beautiful accident at a small writer's retreat. Sharing coffee, they shared their stories, not of dramatic victories, but of gentle persistence. Ethan said, "I used to think my willpower was a muscle. I had to flex until it was sore. Now I know it's a river I had to learn to navigate. Kaizen taught me to build the boat, one small nail at a time." Clara smiled, adding, "And Ikigai gave me the North Star to sail toward. I stopped fighting the current and started sailing with purpose."
So, what is the takeaway from their journey?
It is this: your bad habit is not a monster to slay. It is a signal. A painful, clumsy signal trying to point to an unmet need. Your system for change must therefore be kind, not brutal. It must be built on observation, not judgment. On curiosity, not condemnation. The framework is simple. 1. The Ikigai pause. When the urge strikes, interrupt the automation. Place your hands down. Breathe. Ask with genuine curiosity, what is the real human need beneath this impulse? 2. The Kaizen swap. Honor that need with the smallest, kindest action that aligns with your deeper purpose. Not the grand gesture. The microscopic victory. 1 minute, 1 sentence, 1 deep breath.
This is not about becoming a different person.
This is about returning to the person you already are beneath the noise and the struggle. One small, purposeful stone at a time. So tonight I leave you with 2 questions, not as a task, but as an invitation to begin your own story. First, what is one tiny, almost effortless Kaizen swap you can make tomorrow? What is the one small stone you can carry? And second, in the quiet of your own heart, what is the deeper Ikigai, the true need that your current struggles are trying and failing to meet? The journey of 1,000 miles begins not with a heroic leap, but with the decision to tie your shoe. Then to take one simple, conscious step.
Your first step is a question, not a struggle.
Share your one Kaizen swap below. Let's build a new path together.